They tell you Nintendo is a video game company. That story is convenient. It's clean. And it's wrong. Because the real story of Nintendo doesn't begin with Mario, Pokémon, or consoles. It begins with blood, gambling, and survival in one of the most ruthless business environments in history. And the reason Nintendo still exists today, after more than 130 years, has nothing to do with luck, and everything to do with a mindset most modern companies have completely forgotten. This is the untold truth about Nintendo. In 1889, Japan was rebuilding itself after centuries of isolation. Western influence was flooding in, traditions were under threat, and most businesses that existed for generations were disappearing overnight. In the middle of this uncertainty, a man named Fusajiro Yamauchi opened a small workshop in Kyoto. He wasn't building technology. He wasn't innovating software. He was hand-painting playing cards. But not the kind of cards you imagine. These were Hanafuda cards, deeply tied to gambling, underground games, and organized crime. Nintendo's earliest customers weren't families or children. They were gamblers, and later, members of the Yakuza. This is the first uncomfortable truth. Nintendo survived because it understood human behavior before it understood entertainment. While other companies tried to follow trends, Nintendo did something smarter. It followed desire. People wanted to play. They wanted escape. They wanted to risk something. Nintendo sold that feeling, wrapped in paper cards. By the early 1900s, Nintendo dominated the Japanese card market, but success created a new problem. The market was small. Growth had limits. And Nintendo learned an early lesson that would define its future. Being the best in a dying industry is still dying. Fast forward to the 1950s. Japan is modernizing rapidly. Gambling cards are losing relevance. Nintendo faces extinction for the first time. That's when the company makes a series of decisions that, on paper, look completely insane. Nintendo tries to become a taxi company. It fails. Nintendo opens love hotels. It fails. Nintendo sells instant rice. It fails. Most companies would collapse under this many wrong moves. Nintendo didn't, because it wasn't experimenting randomly. It was testing markets aggressively, willing to look foolish in the short term to survive long term. Then came the turning point. In the 1960s, Nintendo notices something simple. Toys never go out of style. Children will always exist. Play will always exist. So Nintendo pivots, not into technology, but into toys. One of their first hits comes from a maintenance engineer named Gunpei Yaka, who built a simple extending arm for fun. Nintendo turned it into a toy called the Ultra Hand. It sold millions. This moment matters more than people realize. Nintendo didn't win because the toy was advanced. It won because it was cheap, fun, and emotionally engaging. That philosophy would later destroy competitors with far better hardware. By the 1970s, video games appear. Atari is rising in the West. Most Japanese companies hesitate. Nintendo doesn't. It sees video games not as technology, but as toys with electricity. That framing changes everything. Nintendo enters gaming with arcade machines, then home consoles. But here's the truth few documentaries admit. Nintendo nearly destroys itself in the early 1980s. The North American video game market collapses in 1983. Atari floods the market with low-quality games. Consumer trust disappears. Retailers stop selling consoles. Video games are declared a dead industry. Nintendo launches the NES into this graveyard. And it shouldn't have worked. But Nintendo did something no one else thought of. They didn't sell it as a video game console. They sold it as an entertainment system. They included a robot. They controlled quality. They locked developers into strict licensing rules. This is where Nintendo's dark genius appears. Nintendo wasn't just making games, it was controlling the ecosystem. Every cartridge had a lockout chip. Every developer answered to Nintendo. Creativity was allowed, but chaos was not. This single decision revived the entire global gaming industry. Then came Mario, Zelda, Metroid, not as products but as worlds. Nintendo didn't chase realism, it chased imagination. While competitors focused on power, Nintendo focused on play. And that philosophy made it billions. But the story doesn't stay perfect. In the 1990s, Sony enters the market. Microsoft follows later. Both companies have more money, more power, and better hardware. Nintendo loses partnerships. It loses third-party developers. It loses market share. On paper, Nintendo is losing the war. But Nintendo was never fighting the same war. Instead of competing on specs, Nintendo doubles down on identity. The Game Boy dominates not because it's powerful, but because it's portable, affordable, and fun. Later, when Sony and Microsoft push realistic graphics, Nintendo releases the Wii, a console mocked for being weak. It becomes one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Nintendo wins when experts say it shouldn't. Because Nintendo doesn't optimize for gamers, it optimizes for humans, families, children, first-time players, nostalgia, emotion. Even its failures teach this lesson. The Wii U failed not because of bad games, but because of bad communication. Nintendo learned. Then it released the Switch, a hybrid console that solved a simple problem: play anywhere. And once again, Nintendo won by refusing to be normal. Behind the scenes, Nintendo operates unlike almost any modern corporation. It hoards cash. It avoids debt. It refuses aggressive monetization. It delays games until they're ready, sometimes for years. Investors hate this. Players love it. Nintendo isn't trying to dominate quarters. It's trying to dominate decades. That's why Nintendo can afford to walk away from trends like VR hype, blockchain games, and aggressive live service models. It doesn't chase attention. It waits until play feels right. And that brings us to the real untold truth. Nintendo isn't a gaming company. It's a play company that uses technology when necessary and ignores it when it is. It survived cards, gambling, wars, market crashes, industry collapses, and competitors with infinite budgets. Not because it was always right, but because it was always patient. In a world obsessed with disruption, Nintendo mastered endurance. And that might be the most valuable business lesson of all. If you want more stories that reveal what companies really don't want you to know, stay curious, stay critical, and subscribe. Because the truth is always more interesting than the headline.